Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase, pricing, and availability questions regarding this watch. Today, we discuss a Rolex Certified Pre-Owned Oyster Perpetual Submariner Date. This is the 116610LV for Lunette Verte. Of course, the watch, the second generation green Submariner. It is the first and to date only one to feature both a green dial and a green bezel insert. So we have what was described on its release in 2010 as a green gold dial, and then the green Cerachrom ceramic bezel insert. More on that in a moment. But the watch was also the introduction, in steel Submariner terms, of a super case. Now, we first saw the super case on a sub with the blue and yellow gold examples that came out in 2008, but by 2010 Rolex was willing to go full steel, and this model, which rolled out alongside the other full steel Submariner dates, would run from 2010 through 2020, when it would be superseded by the 41mm edition. But the watch does wear larger than the previous 40s because of this distinctive so-called super case with its sheer sides and squared off lugs. It looks bigger, though it measures 40 in diameter. In terms of profile, you can see it's 12.8 millimeters thick from lug to lug tip, 48.2 millimeters, and then a 51.1 millimeter distance from end link to end link across the wrist, with a 20 millimeter spacing in between the lugs. Now we're going to throw this on my wrist, and for the wrist shots, I always have to take the glove off because frankly it covers up so much of my wrist that the wrist shot itself becomes useless. So we're going to take the glove off just for the wrist shot and take a look on my 16 centimeter circumference wrist. I think I've got a little bit of clearance on each side. This is always the truest angle. If you're trying to size a watch up when you're wearing it, you don't have the advantage of a mirror. I'd say this watch would wear on a wrist as small as 15 centimeters circumference. Again, mine is 16. Low enough, and this is a characteristic of most Rolex sports watches, they are pretty thin, particularly the diver. That's a 300 meter. You're going to find this will easily slip under a cuff. Most 300 meter divers are considerably thicker, but then that is from other brands, not Rolex. And here's your over-the-top shot. Right. We'll bring back this left-hand glove. And by the way, Rolex has only approved these gloves for my videos. If you think it's quirky that I only use gloves in the Rolex videos, it's even quirkier than you think. They only like this pair. So taking a look at the watch now, you can see it's 904L steel. Today Rolex coils that Oyster steel. It's a high nickel percentage steel that is incredibly resistant to corrosion in the face of salt and certain industrial acids. The practical advantage for an end user is that in the face of sweat or sea salt, this will not rust if you don't rinse it. Believe it or not, 316 steels can rust if not rinsed after salt exposure. We have a conforming end link to make the bracelet cleanly to the case, and cleanly not just in the sense that matches the curve of the case, but also the slope of the lugs. Both are important. Then there's a taper down towards the clasp. You can see all the tops of the links are satin brushed, and then the outer faces are polished. We have these removable links that are fixed in place by screws. And you can see we have an intermediate sized link in there. Now what's also important is that on these divers, you get more than Rolex's Easy Link. This is glide lock. It's 20 millimeters of adjustment in 2 millimeter increments. So without tools, you have the ability to move it in, if you wish, little by little, so you can size it finely for fit, or you could pull it all the way out and use it over a dive suit as a dive extension. The clasp is robust with two locks. One is spring-loaded that features a beak and a spring-loaded lever, and then the hook is inside the clasp. So that's actually the first lock. The clamshell is the second. Then you've got that little kerf to dig your nail in and remove the clamshell, but double locking for security. You can see the interior of the clasp rolling around to the case. You can see that it does in fact feature a trip lock crown in steel. You know it's a trip lock crown in steel because it has 3 symmetrical dots. You can also see the case back. People ask, but it's generally just a screwed in Oyster case back. Not a whole lot to see there. The bezel's well detailed. You can see that there's a combination of satin finish and polish on the sharp knurling at the edge of the bezel, and it's really a pleasure to grab. Super refined, distinct, but also silky. Hard to do. but that alchemical combination of a crisp yet refined bezel is one of the hallmarks of Rolex dive bezels. Line up the bezel pearl with the minute hand. Now you've got a 0 to 60 minute count-up timer that I find easier to read, more practical, and indisputably cheaper to service down the line than a chronograph. So even if you're not diving, this is a useful timer. Rolex over-engineers everything, so we have a little sapphire cap on the bezel pearl to protect it. And then we have the green Cerachrom ceramic bezel, and all of the deposits, the numerals and the indices, those are PVD platinum, so it won't discolor with time. We have a flat sapphire with a domed Cyclops eye style magnifier. Let's do a lume shot. Take a look at this watch in the dark. You can appreciate Rolex's proprietary blue chromolite, which has dusk till dawn type luminescence, and then all three hands loomed, which I think is important on a diver because you really need to know if your timing instrument is still running in the dark, and it often gets dark down in the depths. White gold hands and indices, for the same reason there's platinum deposited in the bezel. It's not going to tarnish or discolor even if a little bit of moisture gets in the case. The dial was described upon this watch's release in 2010 as green gold. Now, Rolex no longer used that nomenclature towards the end of the run, and I'm not sure it was because perhaps it's not as culturally appropriate in Middle Eastern markets to wear something that's openly billed as gold, or if perhaps their legal department told them, there are purity standards for gold and the dial does not meet them, but the deposit on the dial was described as a gold-infused metallic green, and I still like to think of it as green gold. Of course, we have the famed Mercedes-style minutes hand, or hours hand, I should say, baton minutes, and then counterweighted Lancet-style seconds hand. Inside, Rolex caliber 3235, bidirectional automatic winding, 4 Hz, 31 joules, 48-hour power reserve, hacking seconds, quick set date, COSC certified Swiss chronometer movement. Rolex, of course, using a full balance bridge and a free-sprung balance for shock resistance, and an overcoil hairspring with a very centered mass, so in any physical position it will keep excellent time regardless of gravity. And finally, that overcoil is a blue oxidized niobium zirconium that is highly anti-magnetic. So if you love this watch, which is water-resistant, shock-resistant, anti-magnetic, and an ergonomic dream with that glide lock clasp, reach out to Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase and pricing details. Rolex Certified Pre-Owned watches are backed and authenticated by Rolex. Should any reconditioning be necessary, it will be to a Rolex Certified standard, and any parts invested, Rolex Factory Original. Should the initial retail box, paper, and accessory set still accompany the watch, it will be included with the sale. But no matter what, a Certified Pre-Owned box and paper set starts with an outer box, a leatherette travel pouch with suede lining, a warranty card that embodies the 2-year globally valid Rolex-backed warranty. Note, this is not a retail warranty, but backed by Rolex and actionable at any of its authorized points of sales and service. A leatherette wallet includes the warranty terms and conditions manual. A holographic hang tag marks this as a certified pre-owned Rolex watch, and a manual details Rolex's values as a company, the certified pre-owned program, care, feeding, service, and use of your Rolex, locations of points of sales and service, and details of Rolex.com. Rolex certified pre-owned watches are backed only by Rolex.